Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pujari Nirvishesha Shunyavali Paschatyali Shatari. Okay.
Vishnu Padmahamsa Prabhupada Shri Adesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnu Padmahamsa Prabhupada Shri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Madhya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Vrimse Galo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Radha Gadadhar Shri Sri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Vrindavan Das Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Radhika Giri Govardhan Ki Latordam Ki Jaimat Poidam Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Samaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki All glories to the Supreme All glories to the Supreme All glories to Shri Shri Guru Gauranga. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga. Listen,
Prabhupada. God.
All glories to the beautiful art and ceremony of Lord Chaitanya. This Gora Arati is taking place in the grove on the banks of the Ganges, and is attracting the minds of all the deities in our universe. On Lord Chaitanya's right side is Lord Nityananda, and on his left side is Sri Radha. Nearby stand Sri Advaita, and Sri Thakur is holding an umbrella over Lord Chaitanya's head.
Lord Chaitanya sat down on a jeweled throne, and the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, performed the Arati ceremony. Narahari Sankara, the other associates of Lord Chaitanya, and the Chamaras, and devotees headed by Sanjaya Pandita, Mukunda Datta, and Vasu Glosha, singing sweet kirtan.
Conch shells, bells, and cartons resound, and mridangams play very sweetly. This kirtan music is supremely sweet and relishable to hear.
The brilliance of Lord Chaitanya's face conquers millions upon millions of moons, and the garland of forest flowers around his neck shines. Lord Shiva, Sukadeva Goswami, and Narada Muni are all there, and their voices are choked with the ecstasy of transcendental love. Thus, Thakur Bhakti Vinoda envisions the glory of Lord Sri Chaitanya.
Bhagavati ki jai. Our obeisance is to Lord Mon-Sun, who gives joy to Prahlad Maharaj, and whose nails are like chisels on the stone-like chest of the demon Hiranyakashipu. Lord Nrsimha is here and also there. Wherever I go, Nrsimha is there. He's in the heart and outside as well. I surrender to Lord Nrsimha, the origin of all things and the supreme refuge.
O Vishnu, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of half man, half lion, all glories to you. Just as one can easily crush a wasp between one's fingernails, so in the same way the body of the wasp-like demon Hiranyakashipu has been ripped apart by the wonderful pointed nails on your beautiful lotus hands. Jai Shri Shri Gurita,
Jai.
Jai Nrsimha Deva.
Jai. sounded ecstatic. I didn't know you played with or something.
Oh,
Yeah, he did. He is good. He's intrigued up. He learned us in 1 year.
just hearing from the hearing.
That's great, though. I mean, just hearing it and hit play like that, it took me a lot of practice.
Put some time into it, I don't need for you.
I just hear it.
Okay, bye. Hare Krishna. Good night.
Sure, welcome, right? Hare Krishna devotees, this is Dr. Joseph. I'm gonna make a phone call real quick, and then I'll do some reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and I'll leave the live stream going so you guys can listen if you'd like. But I just need to make a phone call for like maybe 10 minutes, and then I'll be back. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
To read, y'all can read along. You can listen. Picking up on chapter 9, titled The Most Confidential Knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. I believe we were somewhere around text 6 or 7. Start with text. Well, I think we read a little bit before. We'll start on text 10, 9, 10. Mayad yakshena prakriti suyate sajaracharam hetuna nena konteya jikadva parivartate. Translation: This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Text 11. Avajananti mam hudha manushim tanum ashritam param bhabham vajananto mamhabhutam ashparam. Translation: Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Text 12. Mokasham hoga karmano moka jnana vichetasaha rakshasim asurim jaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Translation: Those who are thus bewildered and attracted by demonic and atheistic views. Shri Shri Gonatai Ki. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Text 13. Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritima shitaha vajanti nanyamatso gyatva bhutademavyam. Translation: O son of Pritha, Those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the perfection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Text 14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha judhavritaha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Translation: always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Text 15. Jnana yagyana chapyanye yachantom ham upasate ekatvenha pratakvenha bahudha vishvato mukam. Translation: others who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, diverse in many, and in the universal form.
What text is it? Text 16? Aham kratur aham yajna savadam aham asudam mantroham aham evajam aham agni aham hutam. Translation: but it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering.
Text 17. Pitaham hasya jagato mata tata pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkara riksamaya johevacha. Translation: I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, the Sam, and the Yajur. Vedas.
Text 18. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Shakshi Nivasha Saranam Suhurt Prabhava Pralaya Siddhanam Nidhanam Bijam Avayayam. Translation: I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed.
Text 19. Apyaham maham varsham nigrin naham yutsrijhami cha amritam chaiva mrityuscha sarasachcha hamharjuna. Translation: O Arjuna, I control heat, the rain, and the drought. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both being and non-being are in me.
Text 20. Trividya Mamso Mapa Puta Papa Yajnar Isvat Savargatim Prayantante Te Punyam Asadya Surandam Lokam Anasti Divi Deva Bogan. Translation: those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. They take birth on the planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights.
Back to text 10, reading the translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. This material nature is working under my direction, most and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport. Here, that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is
being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad Gita that of all the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child. And similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species, according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, still take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So, the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet, the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Text 11. Translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be.
Shri Shri Gauranatai Ki. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Paramakrishna. He is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishvaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly both in the material world and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Paramakrishna. His body is Satchit Ananda, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. I just like to make a small point. I was thinking about so many Christians that I've spoken to who say that God can't have a form. And there's the class of man who derides Krishna by thinking him to be human. And then there's also the class of man who thinks that they simultaneously try to claim that they have a personal relationship with God, but they also take away all the aspects that give oneself personality, like form, activity, yeah, having a place. And so they don't understand that though God has form, it's nothing like our form. It's just this. It's eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. So it's a spiritual form. And this is something that they just, it's difficult, I found, for them to wrap their heads around. So I wanted to say that. He has spiritual form. Okay. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manushim, because he is acting just like a man, a friend of Arjuna's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways he is acting just like an ordinary man, but actually his body is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also, Satchit Ananda Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tam ekam govindam, quote, you are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Satchit Ananda Vigraham, quote, and your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, he is called Mudha. For only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything that be, and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy, as has been explained in several places. Mama Maya Durateya. He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead, Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception, so they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his Yogam Aishvaram, his inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and the finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the infinite and the finite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord. There are many controversies amongst the impersonalists and the personalist about the Lord's appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative text for understanding the signs of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, they say that having a form would limit God. But if you think about it, thinking that God can't come down into his own creation is limiting God. I mean, but you don't get to limit God more than making that statement that God can't do anything he wants to do.
I don't mean to interrupt, but it's reminding me of that verse where Krishna says, "I am inside of every atom. I am inside of everything." So his form is everything in a sense, and then he has this, eternal, higher kind of form, and then but he's also like in the verse it says, "I am inside of every living atom. I'm inside of everything." So, yeah.
Yeah, he's in this. He's the smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the big, and he's totally beyond both of them. Like in the Ishopanishad, it talks about the complete whole has many expansions that are complete in themselves, but those don't diminish from. He remains complete despite having so many complete emanations coming from him. Right. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, when the sages inquire about the activities of Krishna, it is stated that his appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful acts that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands. But after the prayers of the parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. His appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of the Gita, also it is stated, Tenaiva rupena, etc. Arjuna prayed to see again that form of 4 hands, and when Krishna was thus petitioned by Arjuna, he again assumed his original form. All these different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Some of those who deride Krishna, who are infected with the Mayavad philosophy, quote the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma vastita sada. Quote, the Supreme is present in every living entity. Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavatam, sorry, Canto 3, 29, 21. We should better take note of this particular verse from the Vaishnavacharyas, like Jiva Goswami, instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna.
Instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna, Jiva Goswami, commenting on this verse, says that Krishna, in his planetary expansion as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and non-moving entities as the Supersoul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, does not respect other living entities, is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. There are 3 kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is in the lowest stage. The neophyte devotee gives more attention to the deity in the temple than to other devotees. So Jiva Goswami warns that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Therefore, everybody is the embodiment or the temple of the Supreme Lord. And as such, as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and every body in whom the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given
proper respect and should not be neglected. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalist and the impersonalist will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is the supreme personality, he is all-pervading, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita.
Although his personal abode is Goloka Vrindavan, and he is always staying there, still by his different manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansion, he is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.